but it's something called Dragon's Plague. And Dragon's Plague is a disease that your pawns contract, and it can make them more powerful and more aggressive, which could be a good thing. It could also decimate an entire city and kill everybody inside, which is a very bad thing. What is it? How do you get it? And what do you do if you do get it? So basically, only pawns can get it. NPCs won't be able to get it. Your Arisen, your main character, cannot get it. And the way that they can get it is they can either get it by if you're fighting some kind of dragon or a drake, and it seems to be that there's a higher chance if you're fighting a drake and it bites the pawn, there's a chance of them getting it. The other way to get it is contagious. So if you bring a pawn into your team and that pawn has Dragon's Plague, it can then pass Dragon's Plague onto your pawn. So now your pawn will have Dragon's Plague as well. And you'll know that your pawn has it, or you can know that your pawn has it, because what's going to happen is your pawn's going to get red eyes. They're going to get red eyes that are going to be kind of be glowy, start to glow. And they're also going to not really be listening to your commands. So normally a pawn will do everything the Arisen tells them to without question. But if they start talking back, then something's up with this pawn. They'll also be like touching their head, like they maybe have a headache or something like that from time to time. So if you see your pawn acting strangely, look at the eyes real closely just to check, make sure they're not red. And if your character already has red eyes, then that might be hard to tell. So you might want to change the color there if you can. But anyway, what's going to happen is eventually, like I said, your pawn's going to get more aggressive. They're going to get stronger. They're going to become more powerful. And that can actually really help you if you're fighting really powerful enemies. However, the problem is if you go to a town and you fall asleep, you might have a situation where your pawn turns into this big shadowy dragon and kills everybody in town. And when you wake up the next morning, everybody's dead. And that's a problem because if one of those people is a quest giver or something along those lines, guess what? That quest giver no longer exists. And that's going to be a hard thing to continue on. It will not completely screw over your game. You just have to figure out where am I supposed to go. If you've played the game, then you already know where you need to go. It might not be a huge deal. If you haven't played the game through yet, you might not know where to go. So there's a couple things you can do. You can, in that situation, you can use a wake stone, which is a special stone. If you get 3 wake stone shards, you get a wake stone. You can use a wake stone to revive dead NPCs. However, that could be tedious if you have to revive an entire city's worth of people. However, there is a wake stone called the Eternal Wake Stone, which comes from the Sphinx. So if you can solve the Sphinx's riddle, then one of the prizes that you can get is the Eternal Wake Stone. That will revive everybody in the area. So that would basically resurrect the entire city. So everything would be fine and dandy. But if you don't want to have to deal with that, especially because you can't go back and save scum. So once everybody's dead, there's dead. There's no going back. What you can do is you can kill your pawn. So take that pawn, chuck him off a cliff, or chuck him into the water and let him drown or be killed by the brine. Because if you do that, then when you bring them back from the rift, they will be fine. So that's the easiest way to get rid of it is just to kill your pawn. I did see some people online were not very happy with the solution because, as they said, like, I made my pawn look like my cat, and killing my cat makes me feel really guilty and terrible, and I don't want to do that. So there is one other solution, but it's not easy to do. What you need to do is you need to have somebody summon your pawn into their game and then dismiss your pawn. So basically, your pawn needs to be used by somebody else, and they need to dismiss it to return them to the rift, and that will also cure your pawn. But other than those 2 methods, there is no known method of curing it at this point. So if you do get it, be very careful. Make good use of it while it lasts. Don't let it progress too far. And that's basically it for Dragon's Plague.